Welcome to Analytics and Data-Driven Decision Making. I'm really excited to teach this course. I'm really excited because so much that's going on right now involves data. Data scientists, data analytics, analyzing data and making decisions. So just to get started, a quick note, there are notes pages on these slides, so if you take a look at those, you might have a little bit more information. I don't like to put too much on the actual slides, so there might be additional information down in the notes pages, so they need to be downloaded if you want to see those. Also, I've been teaching stats for over 10 years, and this is the best textbook I've seen in terms of data-driven decision-making, analytics, because they've got cases and a lot of emphasis on decision-making. So let's get started with some of the foundation of analyzing data. Data types and measures. So why summarize data? That's a question I always ask my students right off the bat is, nowadays with just such an overload of information coming from social media, the web, what people are doing on the web, there's really a need to organize it and make it accessible to managers and people that may not understand data. So here's a good article about the importance of statistics and analytics, the 10 skills in demand around the world that can get you hired in 2017. You'll see data mining and statistical analysis are right there at number 2. And I do want to just make a note, statistics is basically a subset of analytics and sort of the foundation. So I kind of start with statistics and then we focus on decision making related to data analysis. So I'm going to start with what kind of data will I be dealing with. When you're going to do a study and collect data, it's either going to be time series or cross-sectional. If you have time and resources, you can actually track something over time. So a good example of this is twin studies. They know that twins are alike genetically, so they want to track how twins are different over time to see how the environment impacts them. It's basically a nature versus nurture question. So anything over time is considered time series. That's the big difference between time series and cross-sectional. And you can see trends and patterns over time, like stock market or absenteeism, for example. If you want to know about your employees' absenteeism or job satisfaction, maybe something like number of defects or how job satisfaction has changed over time because there's been, a lot of turnover with CEOs. Cross-sectional, basically grabbing the data in a single point in time. Most of the time this is what you see because of resources. People may not have the time or resources to track something over time, but it really depends on the study. And you're looking for variation among the observations. So something like GPAs of students in this class or starting salary of those graduating in 2017 or 18. Here's another example of time series. This is from Google Analytics, tracking data from a website. It was basically a freshman blogger, and you can see there was a spike whenever they sent an email saying she was blogging, basically making students aware that she was blogging, so there would be a spike. Now here's a study, a headline I saw recently, high altitudes linked to suicide. Really one of those headlines that makes you question, how is it measured? What are the statistics involved? And most likely, well, it was a cross-sectional study because they grabbed information at one point in time. They just looked at altitudes at one point in time and the suicide rates at that one point in time. Notice you wouldn't need a time series because you're not looking at how altitudes don't change over time. So that wouldn't make sense. And yeah, maybe a different study would want to track suicide rates over time, but that's not the point of this study. They wanted to look at the relationship. Another study I saw recently is, Hey You, Rude People Earn More, study finds. That was the headline. Going a little deeper, the way they studied rudeness was basically just a low score on agreeableness. So not sure if I agree with that way to measure, but we'll talk about types of measures and things next. So this was also a cross-sectional study where they just grabbed data from one point in time. That's all that was needed. They weren't studying rudeness over time or how much people earned over time. They just wanted to see if there was a correlation between rudeness and how much people made. So you can imagine what might be going on there is, maybe rude people are more likely to get their way. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe people that make more are actually burnt out and so they're more rude. Okay. So all of those examples were cross-sectional, and most studies are cross-sectional, simply like what I said, resources available. Okay.